Why was she the only one standing when the others stayed seated? That thought cut through her mind as the briefing room fell silent, every set of eyes pinned on her. The projector light flickered against the maps on the wall, casting shadows across faces too weary to betray emotion. But she could feel it, the weight of suspicion, the unspoken question. Why her, why now? Emma Parker adjusted the strap of her vest, hiding the steady rhythm of her breathing behind a mask of calm. Inside, her chest tightened. Outside, she didn't flinch. That had been beaten into her long ago, not in this war, not even in this uniform, but in the ring where weakness bled you faster than any wound. "Sit down, Sergeant," the commanding officer said finally, his voice gravel against the hum of the projector. She lowered herself slowly, folding into the steel chair, eyes forward. No arguments, no hesitation. She couldn't afford hesitation. Not here. The mission briefing dragged on, coordinates, extraction points, layers of intelligence stitched together with words that sounded more certain than they were. But Emma's thoughts drifted elsewhere, to the cold weight in her stomach, to the truth she hadn't told them. Not yet. Outside the tent, the desert wind clawed at the canvas, rattling the poles. Inside, the air pressed down heavy, suffocating in its silence. The lieutenant droned about supply lines, enemy movement, weather patterns. But Emma wasn't hearing him anymore. Her mind was chasing a loop that had been running since the last operation, since the whispers started, since the looks lingered longer than they should have. "They think you don't belong here." She clenched her jaw. The irony wasn't lost on her. She'd been underestimated her entire life. In Detroit, in the gym, in every school hallway she'd walked through like prey under a predator's gaze. Outsider, scholarship case, girl in a man's sport, fighter in a world that said she should bow her head. Every time the script had been the same. They laughed, they sneered, they tested her. And every time, eventually they learned. But this wasn't a gym. This wasn't a school cafeteria. These were soldiers, hardened, scarred, lethal in ways that didn't come with rules or referees. And unlike the bullies of her past, these men and women had reason to doubt her. They hadn't seen the fights she'd survived. They'd only seen her file. They knew what was written, not what was left out. The briefing ended, chairs scraped, boots shuffled. Emma rose, collected her rifle from the rack, checked the chamber with quiet precision. The habit soothed her. Metal, weight, rhythm. The familiar steps of preparation, her armor against what was coming. She stepped into the night air, cool against her skin, and found Alex leaning against the armored vehicle, a cigarette glowing between his fingers. He was always there, somehow, on the edge of everything. Too smart for his own good, too quiet for the rest of the platoon. "You stood up," he said, not looking at her. Smoke curled from his mouth into the dim light. "They called on me." "No, they didn't." He flicked the ash, watching it vanish in the dark. "You stood because you won't sit when someone tries to push you down." Emma pulled her jacket tighter. "You think too much." "Better than thinking too little," Alex muttered, then finally turned his gaze on her. His eyes were sharp, restless, searching. "They don't trust you, not yet." Emma met his stare steady. "Do you?" He smiled faintly, but it didn't reach his eyes. "I don't know you, not really, but I've seen the way you move. It's not Army standard, that's something else, something before." Her chest tightened, but her face remained carved from stone. "Does it matter?" "It will." The sound of boots approaching cut the moment short. Tyler, of course. Broad shoulders, confident stride, a sneer etched into his face like it had been born there. He carried his rifle the way rich kids carried their privilege, casually, as if it weighed nothing. "Well, if it isn't the Golden Girl," Tyler drawled. "Standing tall in the briefing, Parker. What's next?" "Telling the Co. how to run the mission." Emma didn't respond. Silence was sharper than sarcasm. Tyler stepped closer, invading her space. "You don't belong here. Everyone knows it. You didn't earn this slot. You got it because some committee wanted a poster girl." The words weren't new. She'd heard them before in different forms in different places. Farm girl, charity case, street fighter, now it was soldier. The costumes changed. The venom didn't. She tilted her head slightly, her voice even. You done. Tyler's jaw flexed, frustration simmering. Just remember what I said. He leaned closer, voice dropping low enough that only she could hear. When this mission goes south, and it will, you'll be the first one left behind. He turned, boots grinding against gravel, and stalked away with his entourage. Emma watched him go, pulse steady, expression unreadable. But inside, the words struck deeper than she'd admit. Not because she believed him, but because a part of her wondered if he was right. Not about belonging, but about the mission, about the storm building out there in the darkness. Don't let him get to you, Alex said quietly, stubbing out his cigarette. Emma finally looked at him, a faint smile tugging at her lips. He's already gotten to me, just not the way he thinks. They parted ways for the night, retreating into the thin privacy of their cots. Emma lay awake, staring at the canvas ceiling, the sound of snoring, distant gunfire, the hum of generators weaving into a lullaby of war. She reached under her pillow, fingertips brushing the worn hand wraps she kept hidden there. The same ones she'd used in Detroit, the same ones she'd sworn to put away. Her mother's words echoed in her head. You're a student now, not a fighter. But here, in the desert, under stars that knew more secrets than men ever would, Emma whispered her own truth. I can't erase it, it's who I am. Sleep took her in fragments, broken by flashes of memory, sweat on gym mats, the sting of leather against skin, the roar of a crowd that never cheered her name but always remembered her fists. And beneath it all, the shadow of something looming. A mission, a choice, a reckoning. And the quiet certainty that secrets don't stay buried forever. Why was the convoy moving so slowly? The question gnawed at Emma as she sat in the back of the armored vehicle, rifle across her lap, the desert night pressing close around them. The engine's rumble vibrated through the steel floor, a dull rhythm against the silence of the men inside. Even Tyler was quiet, his usual taunts muted, replaced by something colder, calculation. The mission had seemed straightforward on paper. Escort, recon, secure intel. But Emma knew better than to trust simplicity. Missions that started easy rarely ended that way. And every mile they drove into this dead land felt like walking into the jaws of something waiting. Alex sat across from her, his face pale in the red glow of the interior lights. He wasn't built for this world, not in body but in mind. Sharp, brilliant, analytical. The kind of man who should have been buried in books, not sand. But here he was, fingers drumming against his thigh, eyes flicking to her every so often like he wanted to ask something but couldn't. Finally, he leaned forward, voice low. Why do you keep doing that? Emma looked up. Doing what? That thing you sit so still, like you're somewhere else but also waiting, watching. She adjusted her grip on the rifle. It's called being ready. No, it's more than that. His eyes narrowed. You don't move like the rest of us. You move like you've been here before, like you've been somewhere worse. The vehicle jolted over uneven ground. Emma steadied herself without breaking his gaze. The truth hovered on her tongue, the truth about Detroit, about the gym, about the ring. But she swallowed it down, not here, not yet. Instead, she said, readiness isn't about where you've been, it's about surviving where you are. Alex leaned back, studying her with that quiet intensity that made him dangerous in a different way. I don't believe that. Before she could answer, the driver's voice crackled over comms. Checkpoint ahead, lights off, silent approach. The interior lights died. Darkness swallowed them. Only the faint starlight seeped through narrow slits in the armor. The vehicle slowed, engine dropping to a whisper. Every breath sounded too loud, every heartbeat a drum. Emma's pulse quickened, but her body stayed loose. She let her eyes close briefly, centering herself the way Coach Rodriguez had drilled into her. Breath controls the body. Calm the breath, calm the fight. When the vehicle finally stopped, the rear hatch groaned open. Hot desert air flooded in, carrying the smell of dust, oil, and something metallic. Blood or memory. Out, the lieutenant ordered. Boots hit sand. Emma followed, scanning the horizon, rifle raised. The checkpoint was nothing more than a cluster of broken concrete walls, shadows clinging to every corner. The silence wasn't right. Too empty, too staged. "Clear the perimeter," the lieutenant barked. The squad fanned out. Tyler brushed past her, his smirk returning now that eyes weren't on the horizon but on her. "Try not to get lost, Parker. Wouldn't want the desert to swallow you." Emma ignored him, sweeping the northern flank, every nerve on fire. She crouched by a broken wall, fingers brushing across a still-warm casing. Recently fired. The air tasted of smoke, faint but undeniable. They weren't alone. "Movement," she whispered into comms. Static hissed back, no reply. Her stomach dropped, comms jammed, deliberate. And then it began. The night split open with gunfire. Shadows erupted into motion, muzzle flashes tearing the darkness. The first rounds pinged off the vehicle's hull. Shouts filled the air. Chaos. Emma hit the ground, rolling behind the wall, returning fire with controlled bursts. Her training, real training, the kind drilled into her long before this desert, took over. Footing, timing, breath. Every movement calculated, efficient, deadly. Beside her, Alex scrambled down, his rifle clumsy in his hands, panic wide in his eyes. "Stay low," she hissed, shoving him against the wall. "Don't shoot unless you can see them." He nodded, trembling but obeying. His fear wasn't weakness, it was honesty, and honesty could survive this. Recklessness couldn't. Tyler's voice roared through the chaos. "Push forward, don't just sit there." Emma caught a glimpse of him, charging recklessly into open ground, bullets snapping past. For a moment she considered letting him learn the hard way. But instinct, and something deeper, pulled her forward. She surged out of cover, dragging Alex with her, moving in bursts the way Rodriguez had trained her. Advance, cover, move. The rhythm of combat wasn't so different from the rhythm of the ring. Opponent strikes, you counter, never panic, never lose your center. They dove behind another wall as an explosion tore the checkpoint apart. Dust and fire rained down, screams swallowed by the thunder. Emma pressed her back against the stone, forcing her breath steady. Alex coughed beside her, blood running from a cut on his forehead. "This wasn't random," he gasped. "They knew we were coming." Emma's stomach turned cold. He was right, too precise, too quick, a trap. And then through the haze of dust, she saw him. A figure on the ridge, tall, still, watching, not firing, just watching. Her blood froze. Whoever he wasn't part of the chaos. He was orchestrating it. She lifted her rifle, but by the time her sights locked, he was gone, swallowed by the night. "Emma!" Alex's shout snapped her back. Tyler had gone down, pinned behind debris, rounds kicking up sand inches from him. His bravado had finally run out. For a split second, she hesitated. Tyler, the bully, the voice that never let her forget she didn't belong, the one who promised she'd be left behind. And now here he was, exposed, vulnerable. Her breath caught. The decision sat heavy in her chest. Leave him and prove his prophecy right, or drag him back and tie herself deeper into this mess. Rodriguez's voice echoed in her mind. "A fight isn't about the enemy in front of you. It's about the one inside you." Cursing under her breath, she sprang from cover. Bullets screamed. Sand kicked at her boots. She reached him, yanked him by the vest, and dragged him back, his protests drowned by the storm. When they collapsed behind the wall again, Tyler's face was pale, his bravado cracked wide open. But instead of thanks, his eyes burned with something uglier. Resentment, humiliation. "You think this makes you better than me?" he spat. Emma didn't answer. Her silence was sharper than words. The firefight raged on, but something had already shifted, not on the battlefield, inside. Because in that moment, pulling the man who hated her out of the dirt. Feeling his weight drag against her strength, Emma realized the truth she'd been running from. She wasn't just fighting for survival anymore. She was fighting for something else. Something she couldn't yet name. But the look in Tyler's eyes told her this. Saving him hadn't won her respect. It had painted a target on her back. And as the squad regrouped under fire, Emma knew the battle wasn't just out there in the desert. It was here, inside the platoon, inside herself. And it was only beginning. Why was it always the silence after that hurt the most? The firefight had ended hours ago. The checkpoint was rubble, the sand still stained with the heat of flames. They'd pushed the attackers back, or maybe the attackers had simply chosen to vanish, their message delivered. Either way, the squad now sat in the stillness of aftermath. Emma crouched on the edge of the ruined wall, rifle across her knees, scanning the horizon. The night was quiet again, but it was the wrong kind of quiet. The kind that left questions hanging in the air. The kind that made her skin itch with unease. Behind her, Tyler sat against the vehicle, helmet discarded, face pale under streaks of dirt. His leg was bandaged where shrapnel had grazed him, nothing fatal but enough to remind him he wasn't invincible. He hadn't spoken since she dragged him out of the open. Not a word of thanks. Not an acknowledgement. Only silence and the occasional flicker of his eyes toward her, as if she'd stolen something from him instead of saving his life. Alex worked a field radio, sweat dripping down his temple as he adjusted the dials. "Still jammed," he muttered, frustration thick in his voice. Whoever set this up, they knew what they were doing. Emma joined him, crouching low. "Keep trying." He looked up at her, his voice dropping. "That wasn't just an ambush. That was targeted. They were waiting for us." She nodded. She thought the same. The figure on the ridge still haunted her mind, still calm, almost deliberate. Whoever that was, they hadn't been fighting. They'd been watching. "Do you think we've been compromised?" Alex asked. Emma glanced back at the others. The lieutenant paced near the wreckage, muttering into his headset like sheer force of will could cut through static. The rest of the squad patched wounds, reloaded, tried to pretend the cracks weren't showing. Her eyes settled on Tyler. He met her gaze briefly before looking away, jaw tight. "Maybe," she said finally. The words hung between them, heavier than any bullet. By dawn, the squad had managed to limp the convoy back to base. The desert stretched behind them, hiding its secrets under endless sand. Inside the wire, engines shut down, boots hit dirt, weapons were racked in silence. The debrief was brutal. The commanding officer demanded answers no one could give. Why were they ambushed? Who had leaked their route? Why had comms gone dead at the exact moment they needed them most? The lieutenant stammered through explanations. Tyler, pale and simmering, shifted the blame with skillful precision, suggesting, without ever saying directly, that someone hadn't done their job. Emma sat straight-backed, hands folded, listening as suspicion twisted in the air. She didn't flinch when the Co's gaze lingered on her. She was used to it, used to being the easiest target. Afterward, as the squad dispersed, Alex fell into step beside her. "He's going to use this against you." Emma didn't ask who. She didn't need to. Tyler waited outside the tent, leaning casually against the railing, his leg bandaged but his smirk restored. "Nice work out there, Parker. Got us all shot at, but at least you had your hero moment." Emma stopped, facing him square. "You're welcome." His smirk faltered just for a moment before hardening again. "You think dragging me out of the dirt proves something? It doesn't. It just shows how desperate you are to prove you belong here." She kept her tone even. "Maybe I'm not trying to prove anything." "Oh, you're trying," Tyler said, stepping closer. His voice dropped, venom soft but sharp. "And everyone sees it, the way you move, the way you act. You're hiding something. And when I find out what it is," he leaned in until his breath brushed her ear, "I'll make sure they all know you don't deserve that uniform." Emma held his stare, her pulse steady. Silence again, her sharpest weapon. When she finally spoke, her words were calm, almost gentle. "You don't scare me, Mitchell. You never did." She walked away, leaving him there, fists clenched. The next few days blurred into routine. Patrols, drills, maintenance. But under the surface, tension simmered. Tyler's whispers spread. He didn't accuse directly, he didn't need to. All it took was a glance, a muttered joke, a suggestion that Emma was too calm under fire, too precise with her movements, too different. Rumors grew. Had she been in special training before this? Was she someone's pet project? Did she get here by connections instead of merit? Emma ignored it outwardly. Inwardly, the familiar ache returned. Detroit all over again. Whispers in hallways, sneers over second-hand clothes. Only now the stakes weren't bruises in a locker room. Now they were trust, survival. One evening, while the rest of the squad gathered in the mess, Emma found herself alone in the armory cleaning her rifle. The rhythmic motion steadied her. Cloth against metal. Click. Release. Reset. It was like shadowboxing with steel. Alex's voice broke the silence. "You shouldn't be alone in here." She didn't look up. "I'm fine." He walked closer, lowering his voice. "They're circling you. Tyler's not just talking, he's digging." Emma froze for a fraction of a second before resuming the motion. "Digging what?" "Your past." Alex leaned against the bench. "He's got friends, connections, back home. He's asking questions." Her jaw tightened. She, known it was coming. The way he'd watched her in the firefight, the way he'd studied her movements. He'd seen what others hadn't, and now he was hungry for proof. "What happens if he finds it?" Alex asked softly. Emma set the rifle down, finally meeting his eyes. "Then he finds it." "You're not worried?" "I've lived with worse than his curiosity." But as she said it, doubt coiled in her chest. Because if Tyler found out about the ring, about the gloves, about Rodriguez's gym, what would he do with it? Would he twist it into something ugly? Would he paint her as dangerous, unstable, unfit? Alex studied her, his expression unreadable. "You know," he said slowly, "you remind me of a fighter I once saw on TV. The way she stood, balanced, like nothing could knock her down." Emma felt her throat tighten. She forced a small smile. "Maybe you're seeing things." "Maybe," Alex said, but his eyes told her he didn't believe that for a second. The next mission came sooner than anyone expected. Night again. Black sky heavy with stars. Orders were sharp, urgent. Move fast, secure intel from a compound suspected of housing enemy communication equipment. Emma loaded her gear in silence. Tyler watched her from across the motor pool, his smirk replaced by something colder. He hadn't found what he wanted yet, but he would. And when he did, he'd use it. She knew that look. She'd seen it before in opponents across the ring, studying her, waiting for an opening. As the convoy rolled out, Alex sat beside her, rifle across his knees. He leaned in, whispering so only she could hear. "Whatever happens tonight, don't let him win." She glanced at him, surprised. "Tyler." "No," Alex said. "The part of you that still thinks you don't belong." The words hit harder than any bullet. She turned away, staring into the dark desert. When they reached the compound, everything was too quiet, again. And as Emma raised her rifle, leading the breach, she knew one truth with absolute clarity. Tyler wasn't her biggest enemy here. Her biggest enemy was time. Because sooner or later, the secret she carried would surface, and when it did, it wouldn't be Tyler who decided her fate. It would be her. Why did the compound look abandoned when intelligence swore it was alive? That was the thought Emma couldn't shake as she crouched in the shadows, eyes fixed on the squat concrete building ahead. No movement, no sound, only the desert wind sighing through broken windows. The squad spread out in the dirt, tension coiled tight. The lieutenant signaled, 2 fingers forward, breach. Emma's hand tightened on her rifle. Her pulse was steady, but every instinct screamed wrong. It was the same feeling she used to get in the ring when an opponent smiled too much, when the quiet before the storm stretched just a little too long. Alex crouched beside her, eyes wide behind his goggles. He wasn't made for this. His mind was wired for puzzles, not ambushes. But he was here, and she'd be damned if she let him break. Tyler, on the other hand, looked eager. Reckless fire burned in his eyes, the kind that mistook adrenaline for invincibility. He nudged her shoulder with a smirk. "Try to keep up, Parker. Wouldn't want you hiding behind me again." She didn't answer. Words wouldn't matter, only actions. The breach team moved, charges planted, countdown whispered. Emma's breath slowed, her world narrowing to the rhythm she'd trained for years to master. Inhale, exhale, timing, precision. The blast blew the doors inward, a thunderclap rolling through the night. Dust and smoke swallowed the entryway. Go, go, go. They surged forward, boots pounding, weapons raised. The compound swallowed them, darkness thick, air stale with neglect. Hallways stretched empty, rooms bare. No guards, no resistance. Emma's gut twisted. "This doesn't make sense," Alex whispered, scanning a room littered with broken furniture. "It's a setup," Emma muttered. As if on cue, the first shot cracked, a flash from the stairwell. One of the squad went down, screaming. Chaos exploded. Figures poured from hidden doors, shadows armed with rifles and rage. Gunfire erupted, echoing through concrete. The air filled with dust, sparks, shouts. Emma dove behind cover, firing controlled bursts, her mind shifting into the calm clarity she hated and needed. Every movement was instinct, every shot deliberate. Rodriguez's voice echoed in her memory. "Don't waste energy. Every strike has purpose." Beside her, Alex fumbled with his rifle. His hands shook, but he held position. He was learning. Fear didn't paralyze him anymore, it sharpened him. Tyler, reckless as ever, charged forward, barking orders no one listened to. His arrogance was loud, but his aim was true. Emma hated that he wasn't useless, hated more that he'd rather die proving himself than admit the danger. "Cover me," the lieutenant shouted, dragging the wounded soldier back. Emma rose, firing, clearing space. A shadow lunged at her from the side, blade flashing. She pivoted, dropped her rifle, and let muscle memory take over. Step, shift, strike. Her fist connected with the attacker's jaw, the crunch sharp even under gunfire. He collapsed. She retrieved her weapon in one smooth motion, heart pounding. For a second she froze. She hadn't meant to let it slip, the fighter inside her. But in that moment, survival left no room for pretending. And when she looked up, Tyler was watching. His eyes narrowed, recognition flashing. He'd seen it, the stance, the precision. He knew. The firefight raged for minutes that felt like hours. Slowly, brutally, the squad pushed the attackers back. When the last shot faded, the silence was deafening. The compound reeked of gunpowder and sweat. Bodies littered the floor. "Secure the site," the lieutenant ordered, voice hoarse. Emma scanned the shadows, weapon ready, but her mind wasn't on the mission anymore. It was on Tyler. He hadn't said a word since watching her fight, but his silence was worse than any threat. He didn't need proof now. He had seen enough. Hours later, back at base, the debrief was short, bitter, and inconclusive. Intelligence had been wrong again. No communication hub. No intel worth dying for. Just another trap in a desert full of them. The wounded were treated, weapons cleaned, uniforms stripped of dust and blood. But the real wounds lingered: suspicion, mistrust, fear. Emma sat outside the barracks, cleaning her rifle under the pale moonlight. The motions calmed her, but her thoughts churned. She'd lost control in the compound. Let herself move the way she had in Detroit. Tyler had seen, and Tyler never let go of anything he could use. Footsteps approached. She didn't need to look up to know who it was. "Nice right hook," Tyler said, voice low, almost admiring. "That wasn't army training, that was something else." Emma didn't answer. He crouched beside her, too close. "Boxer, right? That's what you are, not just some scholarship case from nowhere. You've been hiding it, but I saw it. And now," he smiled, slow and poisonous, Now I own it." Her hand stilled on the rifle. She met his gaze, calm, controlled. "You own nothing." Tyler chuckled, standing. "We'll see. Secrets have a way of rotting, Parker, and when this one does, it'll take you with it." He walked away, leaving the threat hanging heavy in the night air. Emma exhaled slowly, forcing her breath steady. She faced bigger bullies than Tyler Mitchell. But this wasn't Detroit. This was war. And here, secrets didn't just ruin reputations. They got people killed. Later that night, Alex found her still awake, still cleaning her rifle though it was spotless. "You're not sleeping," he said softly. "Neither are you." He hesitated, then sat beside her. For a long moment neither spoke. The silence wasn't heavy, it was companionable, fragile. Finally, Alex whispered, "He's going to come after you." Emma didn't deny it. "Then let him," she said. Alex turned, studying her face. "You're not afraid, are you?" She smiled faintly, bitterly. "I've been afraid my whole life. I just don't let it decide for me anymore." He nodded, thoughtful. Then almost reluctantly he asked, "What are you really hiding?" Emma looked at him, at the boy with too much intelligence and too much loyalty, the one who saw her more clearly than she wanted to be seen. Her chest tightened with the weight of truth unsaid. "But not yet. Nothing that matters tonight," she whispered. And as dawn bled into the horizon, painting the desert in fire, Emma knew the next move wouldn't come from the enemy outside the wire. It would come from inside her own squad. And the fight she thought she'd left behind was only beginning. Why did betrayal always feel closer than the enemy's fire? Emma couldn't shake the weight of it. The desert nights were quiet, but not the kind of quiet that brought peace. It was the kind that pressed down on her chest until breathing felt like a chore. She sat outside the barracks, boots in the sand, staring into the horizon where the dark met the first hint of dawn. Somewhere behind her, Tyler was awake too. She could feel it. The man never slept when there was something to sharpen against someone else's throat. And now he had her secret, or at least enough of it to build something dangerous. The compound raid had changed everything. Emma had crossed a line, moved with the precision of a fighter, not a soldier. She hadn't meant to. It had been survival, nothing more. But Tyler had seen, and Tyler had the kind of memory that never forgot an advantage. "Can't sleep." Alex's voice drifted softly, breaking the silence. Emma turned. He approached quietly, rifle slung across his shoulder, the boyish worry etched in his face again. "Didn't realize you were keeping watch," she said. He sat down beside her, knees bent, arms resting on them. "Someone has to. Feels like we're safer here than inside the wire these days." Emma smirked faintly, paranoid. "Maybe," he glanced at her, "but I'm not the only one." She didn't answer. Alex studied her, then leaned closer, his voice low. "Tyler," not letting it go, "he's talking. He's careful, but he's spreading it, whispers about you, about how you fight like no one else. He says it doesn't add up." Emma's chest tightened, but her face stayed calm. "Let him talk." "You don't get it," Alex pressed, almost desperate. "He's not just trying to undermine you. He's trying to make you dangerous in their eyes, like you're hiding something that puts all of us at risk." Emma looked at him, her voice quiet but sharp. "Do you believe him?" Alex held her gaze steady. "No, but I believe you're hiding something, and the longer you do, the more power you give him." Her throat tightened. He was right, but truth was its own kind of weapon, and once it was out, you couldn't control who swung it. "I've carried worse than Tyler Mitchell's mouth," she whispered. "This won't break me." But the lie burned, because she wasn't sure if it was true. The next patrol was brutal. A stretch of desert so wide and bare it felt like walking across the back of an animal that wanted to shake them off. Heat pressed down in waves, rifles grew heavier with every step, and silence settled over the squad like a curse. Tyler walked near the front, his shoulders straight, his voice low as he muttered to another soldier. Every so often he glanced back at Emma, a smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. not a friendly one, a predator's smile. She ignored him, focusing on the horizon, scanning for movement, but she could feel the squad shifting. Whispers had gravity. They pulled at people until they tilted. By the time they returned to base, the air between them was different, colder. That night in the mess hall, the shift became undeniable. Tyler sat at a table, laughter loud, stories exaggerated. His audience leaned in. Emma sat alone, picking at food she couldn't taste, her back straight, her silence her shield. Alex slid into the seat across from her without asking. He didn't look at her right away, just ate in quiet solidarity. Finally, he said, "They're listening to him." "I know. And you're letting him win." Emma set her fork down, her voice low and sharp. "You think I should stand up and explain myself, tell them about Detroit, about the gym, about Rodriguez and every fight I ever survived? You think that'll change anything?" Alex's eyes softened. "Maybe not, but maybe it changes how you carry it. Secrets rot when you hold them too long." Emma leaned back, exhaling slow. "I didn't come here to tell stories. I came here to fight a war." "Then fight the right one," Alex said quietly. The war outside wasn't waiting. 2 nights later, they rolled out again. Another mission, another stretch of desert swallowed by headlights and silence. Orders were simple. Recon suspected smuggling routes, but nothing in this desert was ever simple. Emma sat in the back of the armored truck, fingers brushing the worn hand wraps tucked under her vest. A ritual now, a reminder. Tyler sat across from her, eyes locked, daring her to blink. He finally leaned forward, voice low enough that only she and Alex could hear. "You know, Parker, you're a liability. Everyone's starting to see it. The way you move, the way you hold yourself, it doesn't belong here. And when it gets one of us killed, that's on you." Emma didn't flinch. "If you're so sure, why don't you tell the co?" "Oh, I will," Tyler said, his smile thin. "I just want you to sweat first." Alex bristled, fists clenched, but Emma shot him a look that silenced him. Words wouldn't stop Tyler, only time and truth. The convoy slowed, engines cut. The lieutenant's voice crackled, "Out, move on foot." Boots hit sand. The squad spread out, scanning ridges under the pale moonlight. Too quiet again. Emma's nerves tightened, patterns repeated. Silence never meant safety. "Eyes up," she muttered, scanning through her scope. And then she saw its shadows on the ridge, dozens of them, too many, waiting, watching. "Contact," she whispered into comms. This time the reply came clear. "Hold fire, not yet." Emma's stomach twisted. She hated waiting. Waiting was when the ghosts of Detroit crept back in, when she remembered standing in that ring with the crowd against her, waiting for someone bigger, stronger, faster to swing first. When the attack came, it was sudden, overwhelming. Gunfire rained down from the ridge. The squad scattered, diving for cover. The desert lit with muzzle flashes, sand exploding under rounds. Emma hit the dirt, returning fire, every shot deliberate. Alex was beside her, his breathing ragged but steady, firing in bursts. Tyler barked orders again, his voice sharp, but this time the squad didn't follow. They moved instinctively, desperately, survival their only strategy. Emma's eyes caught movement, a figure breaking from the ridge, moving fast, low. Not firing, carrying something. Her breath froze, a pack, explosives. "Suicide runner," she shouted. But her voice was drowned by chaos. The figure closed distance fast. Too fast. Emma dropped her rifle, sprinting forward before her mind had caught up with her body. Every step a memory, every motion a fight. She hit the runner hard, her fist connecting with his throat. He staggered, stumbled, pack slipping. She ripped it free, tossed it away, and drove him into the sand. The explosion tore the ground behind her, shockwave throwing her forward. Sand filled her mouth, her ears rang, her chest burned. When she pushed herself up, the runner was gone. Dead or fled, she couldn't tell. But the squad had seen, all of them. The way she moved, The way she fought, not like them, not like a soldier. Like something else. When the firefight ended, when the squad regrouped under a sky thick with smoke, Tyler's eyes found hers. And this time he didn't smirk. He smiled. The smile of a man who knew he'd just won. Back at base, Emma scrubbed the blood from her hands until her skin burned. She couldn't look at anyone, couldn't stand the weight of their stares. Alex found her in the washroom, his voice urgent. They're talking, all of them. You saved their lives out there, but they're saying it's not normal. They're saying you're not normal. Emma pressed her palms against the sink, head bowed. Maybe I'm not. Alex stepped closer, lowering his voice. Then tell me, please, before he twists it into something you can't come back from. She met his eyes in the cracked mirror, her reflection fractured. And for the first time, her voice broke. I used to fight, not like this. Not with guns, with my hands, my fists, Detroit. Underground gyms, I was good, too good. And when you're good at hurting people, the world doesn't forgive it. So I left it behind, or I thought I did. Alex's expression softened, not with pity but with understanding. You didn't leave it, you carried it. That's why you survive. Emma's throat tightened. She whispered almost to herself, and that's why he'll destroy me. Because Tyler wasn't just a bully anymore. He was a soldier with her secret. And in this war, secrets killed faster than bullets. Why did silence feel heavier than shouting? The mess hall was alive with noise, metal trays clattering, boots scraping, voices rising in stories and arguments. But at Emma's table there was silence. No one sat near her. No one looked directly at her. They didn't have to. The distance itself was enough. Tyler had done his work well. A few words here, a smirk there, questions asked in just the right ears. Now the squad didn't just distrust her, they feared her. Emma sat straight, food untouched, her hands folded on the table, calm on the outside. Inside, her chest burned with a familiar ache. This wasn't new. She felt this isolation before. In Detroit, when the crowd jeered as she stepped into the ring. In classrooms where whispers followed her down every hall. Different places, same storm. Only this time, it wasn't about bruised pride. It was about survival. Across the hall, Tyler laughed, his voice cutting through the noise. He sat surrounded, the center of gravity, every story bending toward him. And every so often his eyes flicked toward Emma. Not long, not obvious, just enough. Alex slid into the seat beside her, tray in hand. A deliberate act, a small rebellion. His presence drew stares, but he didn't care. You need to eat, he murmured. I'm not hungry. You will be when we're out there again. He poked at her untouched food, forcing a faint smile. You can't run on air. Emma exhaled slowly, then pushed her tray toward him. You eat it. Alex studied her for a moment, his expression softening. You know he's not going to stop. He thinks he's found your weakness. Emma's jaw tightened. He hasn't. Then prove it, Alex said. Not to him, to yourself. Before she could reply, the room shifted. Chairs scraped. The low rumble of voices dropped as Tyler stood, his tray abandoned. He walked across the hall, slow, deliberate, every eye tracking him. He stopped at Emma's table, looming. His shadow fell across her plate. Well, Tyler drawled, looks like the fighter eats alone. Emma looked up at him, expression steady. And yet here you are. Laughter rippled through the hall. Tyler smirked, leaning closer. You think saving my ass makes you some kind of hero. You think throwing punches in the dirt makes you one of us. Emma didn't answer. Silence was her weapon, sharper than any retort. Tyler slammed his fist against the table, the sound sharp, making trays jump. Say something. Her calm didn't break. You're loud, Tyler, but loud doesn't mean strong. The hall went still. His eyes darkened. He leaned in, his voice dropping to a venomous whisper. You don't belong here, and I'll prove it. Emma rose, meeting his height, her voice even. Then prove it out there, not in here. Gasps rippled through the squad. Tyler's smirk faltered, then twisted. Careful, Parker. You're starting to sound like you want to fight." Emma's gaze didn't waver. "I don't want one, but I won't run from it." The lieutenant's bark shattered the moment. "Enough! Sit down, both of you." Emma sat calmly. Tyler obeyed, but his eyes never left hers. The challenge had been laid. And everyone knew it wasn't finished. Later, under the desert stars, Emma sat outside the barracks, rifle balanced across her lap. She hated that her hands shook, not from fear of Tyler, but from the weight of what was coming. She couldn't afford another enemy inside the wire, not when the ones outside were closing in. Alex found her again, sitting quietly beside her. For a while, neither spoke. The night hummed with generators, insects, distant echoes of artillery. Finally, Alex whispered, "You handled him well." Emma smirked faintly. "You think so? You didn't give him what he wanted. That rattles people like him." Emma looked down at her hands, at the faint scars etched across her knuckles. "People like him don't rattle. They wait. They strike when you least expect it." Alex's voice softened. "Then don't give him the chance." She turned, studying him. His loyalty burned bright, dangerous in its purity. He didn't see the cost of standing beside her, not yet. "You'll make yourself a target," she warned. He shrugged. "Better than watching you take all the fire alone." Her chest tightened. Words caught in her throat, unspoken. Gratitude, fear, something deeper she didn't dare name. Instead, she whispered, "You're a fool, Alex." He smiled faintly. "Maybe, but at least I know what side I'm on." The next mission came at dawn. Patrol again, but deeper this time. Intel pointed to weapons caches hidden in abandoned villages, the kind of mission that could turn routine or lethal in a breath. Emma prepped her gear in silence, the squad moving around her in cold efficiency. Tyler's voice carried low, cutting jokes, his allies laughing just loud enough for her to hear. When they rolled out, the tension in the truck was suffocating. Emma sat across from Tyler again, Alex beside her. The ride was long, quiet except for the hum of the engine. Tyler's smirk never faded. When they finally dismounted, the village loomed ahead. Stone walls crumbled under years of sun. Doorways gaped open, black mouths in pale ruins. The lieutenant signaled, "Sweep pairs." Emma's pulse quickened. Pairs meant Tyler had his chance. And of course the lieutenant didn't disappoint. "Parker, Mitchell, you're together, go." Emma and Tyler locked eyes. His smirk widened. They moved through the village in tense silence, rifles raised, boots crunching against gravel. Shadows clung to corners, whispers of movement teasing their nerves. Finally, Tyler broke the silence. "You can pretend all you want, Parker, but I know you. I saw it in that compound, the way you move, the way you fight. You're not a soldier, you're a street brawler in uniform, and sooner or later that's going to get someone killed." Emma kept her eyes forward. "Maybe, but not today." Tyler's laugh was low, cruel. "You think Alex will save you when it comes out. He won't. He's too soft, too naive. He'll realize what you really are and he'll walk away. They all will." Emma's chest burned, but she forced her steps steady. "You don't get to define me." Tyler stopped, turning to face her. His rifle lowered, but his voice sharpened. "No, but I'll expose you. And when I do, you'll wish you never put on that uniform." Before she could answer, movement flickered in the shadows. A figure, then another, then 10 more. Ambush again. Gunfire erupted, echoing through stone alleys. Tyler dove for cover, firing wildly. Emma moved with precision, instincts honed in rings and streets long before this desert. Her shots were measured, deliberate, cutting through chaos. Tyler caught a glimpse of her stance, her rhythm, the calm that separated her from panic. And for a moment, his smirk faltered. Because beneath his rage and his arrogance, Tyler finally saw the truth. She wasn't weak, she wasn't an outsider. She was dangerous. And that terrified him more than anything. When the firefight ended and silence fell heavy again, the squad regrouped in the ruins. 2 wounded, none dead. A miracle. Emma sat on a broken wall, catching her breath. Alex hurried to her side, eyes wide, relief flooding his face. "You're okay." She nodded, wiping dust from her hands. "For now." Tyler watched from a distance, his expression unreadable. No smirk, no laugh, just calculation. Emma met his gaze across the ruins, her pulse steady. The war outside hadn't broken her yet, but the war inside, between secrets and survival, between truth and trust, was tightening its grip. And Tyler wasn't finished. Not even close. Why did betrayal always strike from inside the walls you trusted most? Emma felt it in the air long before she saw it. The squad wasn't just wary of her now, they were divided. Conversations stopped when she walked into a room. Eyes lingered. Trust had fractured into suspicion, suspicion into fear. And Tyler fed it. He never accused her outright. He didn't need to. His words were careful, precise, dropped like seeds in dry ground. Strange, isn't it, how Parker always comes out without a scratch? Funny, the way she fights like she's not one of us. You ever wonder if she's really here for the same reason we are? By the time those whispers grew roots, Emma didn't have to speak to feel their weight. She sat alone in the motor pool, tightening the straps on her gear before patrol. Her hands were steady, but her chest carried that familiar burn, memory of crowds turning on her, of jeers echoing in gyms where her fists had silenced the noise. She had told herself she'd left those fights behind. But she hadn't. They were back, only the faces had changed. Alex appeared in the doorway, his expression tight. "They're saying you set up the last ambush." Emma didn't look up. "Of course they are." "You didn't even," his voice cracked with frustration. "You saved Tyler's life, twice, and he's the one poisoning them against you." Emma cinched her straps, calm, masking the sting inside. "He doesn't want truth, he wants power, and right now I'm in his way." Alex stepped closer, his voice low. "Then fight back." Her hands stilled. She met his gaze, steady, sharp. "I've fought my whole life, Alex. Sometimes silence cuts deeper than fists." He shook his head. "Not this time. Silence is what gives him the stage." The mission that night was supposed to be simple. Secure a ridge, establish overwatch, report on enemy movement. No direct engagement. Emma didn't believe it for a second. They climbed under a pale moon, boots scraping rock, rifles slung. The ridge stretched high and jagged, the kind of terrain that swallowed sound and hid enemies in its bones. Emma led point, scanning the path. Tyler walked behind her, close enough she could hear his smirk in every breath. Halfway up, Alex whispered, "Something feels off." Emma nodded. She felt it too. The silence was wrong again, too heavy, too staged. When they reached the crest, the world opened into black desert, stars burning cold above. The squad spread out, setting positions. That's when Emma saw it. Wires, thin, half-buried, glinting in moonlight. "Stop," she hissed, too late. The explosion ripped the ridge apart. Stone and fire swallowed the night, men thrown like rag dolls against jagged rock. The blast sent Emma to the ground, ears ringing, lungs burning. She rolled, choking on dust, scrambling to pull her rifle free. Shouts, gunfire, figures in the distance advancing fast. It wasn't an accident, it was a trap, again. And then the truth slammed into her chest, like the shockwave had returned. This wasn't just the enemy outside. Someone inside had led them here. Her eyes snapped to Tyler. He was alive, crouched low, shouting orders. His voice cut sharp through the chaos. "Hold the line, don't let them break us." But his eyes flicked toward her just once, long enough for her stomach to twist. He knew, he'd known where the wires were. The firefight dragged like a nightmare. Emma fought with everything she had, body moving on instinct, every shot measured, every movement deliberate. Alex was beside her, blood on his cheek, firing steady even as his hands shook. But Tyler was louder than bullets. His shouts, his commands, his venom cut through everything. Parker, left. No, you're late. You're too slow. Cover your sector or we're dead. Every word framed her as the problem, as the weak link, even as she was the one holding the flank. By the time the attackers retreated, leaving silence and smoke in their wake, the squad was shattered. 3 wounded, 1 barely breathing. Emma sat on the ridge, chest heaving, dust caked to her skin. Alex dropped beside her, face pale, fury etched into every line. "He set that up," Alex hissed. "He let us into it." Emma's jaw clenched, but her voice was quiet. "I know." "Then why don't you say something? Why don't you tell them?" Her eyes closed briefly, the weight of memory heavy. "Because they'll believe him before they believe me." Back at base, the debrief was chaos. Accusations flew. The lieutenant demanded answers no one could give. Tyler spoke calm, confident, his words sliding like knives. Parker didn't call the wires in time. She hesitated. "That's why we took losses." Emma sat silent, jaw tight, while eyes turned on her. Some looked uncertain. Some looked convinced. None looked at Tyler. When it ended, she walked out into the night air, chest burning, fury and shame tangled tight. Alex followed, his voice breaking. "You can't let him do this. He's going to bury you." Emma turned, her eyes dark, steady. "If I fight him here, I lose. If I fight him out there where it counts, maybe not." Alex stared at her, torn between admiration and despair. "You're stronger than all of them, but how long can you carry this alone?" Emma looked past him into the desert where shadows moved in the distance. "As long as I have to." That night, lying awake on her cot, Emma stared at the canvas ceiling, every muscle aching. She reached under her pillow, fingers brushing the old hand wraps again. She thought of Rodriguez, of fists slamming into bags until her knuckles split, of the lessons he drilled into her. It's not the fight in front of you that matters. It's the one inside, the one you win or lose before the bell ever rings. Her eyes stung, but no tears fell. She wouldn't give them that. She turned onto her side, staring at Alex across the dim barracks. He was awake too, his eyes catching hers for a fleeting moment before closing. For the first time since this war began, she wondered if silence was enough. Because sometimes silence didn't protect you. Sometimes it buried you. And Tyler Mitchell was digging fast. Why did the last fight always feel like it had been waiting all along? Emma knew at the moment the order came down. A dawn raid, high risk, intelligence promising that this time, finally, the cash was real. Weapons, documents, maybe even a key to unravel the network that had been haunting them for weeks. The squad prepped in silence. The air carried a sharpness, brittle as glass. Emma felt it in her chest, in the way glances slid away from her, in the way whispers filled every pause. Tyler had won the narrative. He had painted her as liability, as danger, and now every step she took was shadowed by suspicion. Only Alex stood close, his loyalty quiet but fierce. "Whatever happens today," he whispered, strapping on his vest, "don't let him write the ending." Emma nodded once. The words dug deep, but endings were never written clean. They were carved, scar by scar. The convoy rolled out under a pale sky, engines growling, dust curling in their wake. Emma sat in the back, rifle steady across her knees, eyes fixed on the horizon. Tyler sat opposite her, arms crossed, smirk faint but sharp. When the convoy stopped, silence fell heavy. The compound loomed ahead, stone walls scarred, doorways black with shadow. "Move out," the lieutenant ordered. Boots hit dirt, the squad spread. Emma moved with them, every step measured, every sense alive. The breach went fast, charges blast entry. And then gunfire. The compound erupted, shadows pouring from doorways, bullets slicing the air. The firefight swallowed them whole. Emma dropped behind cover, returning fire, every shot deliberate. Alex was at her side, steady, his fear honed into focus. Tyler barked orders again, loud and sharp, framing chaos as her fault. "Parker, you're slow. Cover the flank. You're leaving us open." But Emma wasn't leaving anyone open. She saw it, the shadow slipping behind, the barrel rising, the shot aimed at Alex. She didn't think, she moved. Her body lunged before her mind caught up, fists swinging. She hit the attacker hard, her knuckles splitting on bone, the man collapsing in the dust. The squad saw it, all of them. Not soldier training, not army doctrine, something older, rawer, a fighter's rhythm, a fighter's truth. Tyler's voice cut through the air, triumphant even under fire. See, she's not one of us, she's hiding, she's dangerous. Emma froze, chest heaving, dust stinging her eyes. For a breath, the truth felt like a weight too heavy to carry. And then Alex's voice broke it. Dangerous, he shouted, his rifle cracking in rhythm with his words. She just saved my life, again, while you, his eyes locked on Tyler, you led us into 2 traps. You're the reason we keep bleeding. The squad faltered, gunfire slowed, the words landed like shrapnel. Tyler's face twisted, fury burning. You don't know what you're talking about. But Emma saw it, the flicker in the other's eyes. Doubt, recognition, Tyler's mask slipping. She rose from cover, dust streaked across her skin, eyes steady. Her voice carried sharp, even under the roar of battle. I've been fighting my whole life. Not for medals, not for glory, for survival, for respect. You want to know who I am? I'm not your liability. I'm the reason half of you are still breathing. Silence cut through the firefight for a heartbeat, long enough for truth to crack the air. And in that silence, Tyler snapped. He swung his rifle toward her, not at the enemy, at her. Alex shouted, the squad froze. But Emma didn't flinch. She stepped forward calm, her voice soft enough it cut sharper than any scream. Go ahead, Tyler, prove me right. For a moment, the world held its breath. Then a shot rang. But it wasn't his. One of the squad fired first. A sharp crack. Tyler's rifle spun from his hands, clattering against stone. He fell to his knees, shock flooding his face. The squad closed on him, weapons raised, voices sharp with fury, not at Emma. At him. It was over, not clean, not fair, but over. Hours later, back at base, Emma sat on a crate outside the barracks, the desert night pressing close. Her knuckles were raw, bandaged in silence. She stared into the dark horizon, chest tight, the weight of it all heavy. Alex sat beside her, quiet as he always was. He didn't speak at first. He didn't need to. Finally, he said, you didn't just survive out there, you changed it. You changed them. Emma shook her head faintly. No, they saw what they wanted. Tyler gave them someone to blame. I just didn't let it be me. Alex studied her, then asked softly, so what does that make you? Emma's gaze stayed fixed on the horizon. It makes me tired. Silence stretched, fragile and real. Then Alex whispered, it also makes you stronger than all of us. She didn't answer, didn't need to. The desert wind stirred, carrying the scent of dust and oil, the echoes of battles fought and those still waiting. Emma closed her eyes briefly, Rodriguez's voice whispering from memory. Sometimes the fight isn't about victory. It's about standing long enough that the world can't deny you anymore. Her eyes opened again, steady, the horizon endless before her. Because she knew now, it had never been about belonging. Not in Detroit, not in the army, not even here. It had always been about dignity. And dignity didn't shout. It didn't beg. Sometimes dignity didn't speak at all. It simply acted.